Hey, it's John. What we're going to talk about today is the NIST 853 control framework and how easily we can use it to optimize and secure our organization. What you see here is Monday.com with the NIST 853 framework laid out, and we can quickly, at a glance, understand the controls that are inconclusive, validated, failed, and selected, along with 1152 that we can still consider in how we integrate them to our business. But how do we really know where to start? We take a look at 7 steps to better policies. We come here and we're going to filter where priority is one. Now we have a clear understanding of what our organization needs to do. We need to define our cloud security policy and define our vulnerability and patch management standards first. We have to have these two policies, procedures, and processes in place. We see that they're priority one, we see that they're maturity zero, and we have some objectives, and we can define our deliverable, build our artifact, and we could share useful resources or see what else the team has put together. So what do we need to do first? We need to understand our cloud security policies, and we need to define our cloud security policy and our vulnerability and patch manager. We're going to do this in about under 5 minutes. So our cloud security policy, we're going to come back here. Let's take a look. Can we find anything that determines cloud? We have information exchange, cryptographic key establishment, alternate processing site, maintenance tools. These are some components that we want to talk about. We also want to define our vulnerabilities. So we have our risk assessment, right? And we also have all these components that have vulnerability that we're going to need to consider, right? We see over here, this is a series of tasks that are going to need to be done across our entire enterprise and domain. So we're going to have to start with a control assessment, right? So how do we make this start to go? We're going to go and select this as a selected control. We're going to talk about monitoring and scanning and updating tool capacities. We're going to come in and we're going to select it. Now what we see here is we have selected these control assessments. Do you know anything about this control assessment? Let's find out. Control assessments, right? This is what they do. They select appropriate assessors, they develop a control assessment plan, and you should work with your information security team, CISO, CTO, leadership management, and we have steps 1 through 3 and C through F that break this down. We also have discussion questions that help us understand more about actually selecting these, and we can really understand holistically what we need to do. We also see here that there's 7+ related controls that we have to consider when we're starting this plan. We can share our files with development instead of leaving the platform. So if you have a file, you would be able to share it there. We're going to go ahead and select it on this check block 2 to work with our assessors. We have our last update, and we can start to define our requirements, right? We need to make the requirements define vulnerability reporting. What level of a vulnerability warrants a report, and who does it go to? Now, how do we assign responsibility, management, accountability? We do that by using the NICE framework. What team is going to be responsible for this? You know what? Let's add our risk management team. If you didn't know what they did, you could open this up and we have an understanding of what the risk management team as a whole is doing across the enterprise. And we also see that they are assigned some work roles. They have controls that are primary. They have all this order of work. Is this team ready for another order of work to be assigned to them in your information security program? This is a good time where we can balance that out. We can come down here, generate a report, and it'll tear all this information out and give us an idea of who's on that team, who's working, what primary and secondary objectives they have, and what they're working on. But let's go back, right? We're going to assign that risk management team anyway. We need our systems architecture, and we also want to just search for our leadership as being responsible for this, right? So we've now assigned them to it. And if you didn't know about the role or who's on the team, again, we can open that up and we have a description of what the high level objective is here of what that is. So before we start an order of work, we can understand, is this the right person without having to ask a myriad of questions, right? Contextual awareness is included in this whole process. We can manage our exceptions, really important in enterprise environments. We could add this to a discovery. We need to see, is there any exceptions we need to do? What group does that impact and how does it impact them? And then additionally, we can build out the rest of our RACI chart. If you're into project management, a RACI chart is really important. This will help us create some components that secure the organization. And our automation has run, which defined that there was an exception created for this, right? So we have documentation. We just generated documentation by using machine learning to do some work for us without us having to go and write that documentation. Then we can come down here and we can work with, if we were working on a sim about defining if that control is visible. We don't need that for this particular control, but it is included when you're working on more granular controls across enterprise environments. So in 5 minutes, we have already started to build our information security policy process procedure, assign our teams, understand roles, rules, scopes, responsibilities, and over here, we can see it in our control dashboard about what we're doing, how it impacts the organization, and we can sort by status, priority, or a myriad of other components. So we could group it by, just we're gonna take a quick gander here. We group it by status and label by priority, and all of a sudden we're going to convey that information that's really important to the senior executives, our distributed teams at a glance, and we can see what's inclusive, what's validated, and what the priority is. If you want to learn more about how to build an award-winning information security team integrating NIST 853 to optimize your business, follow along for more.